Botillier, CEO of Calyx CPA. It's getting towards the end of the year, and so we're sending out our kind of like end of year reminder to do the things that you need to do for your business in order to stay compliant. They seem to be adding more and more requirements, and one of those things that they require now is the beneficial ownership information reporting that is new for 2024. But it is required, and there is a little bit of pushback. People are pushing back in Kentucky. There's some litigation about whether or not this is constitutional. But the IRS, or at least the organizations, are threatening pretty steep penalties for not complying. So if you're somebody who feels strongly that they do not want to do this, that is up to you, but it is our professional obligation to let you know that these are the things that are required. And we have sent multiple emails out letting people know that it's something that they need to do. There are service providers out there that can do this for you, but and we were considering doing it for our clients for a fee, but it's just too simple to pay somebody else to do. It's just one of those things that you'll just need to do, along with filing 1099s and some of the other end of reporting that you have to do. So I'm going to send out an email with links to these various websites, but I'll just show you real quick what you need to do in order to stay in compliance. So the BSA or FinCEN is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, who has been the one who has been put in charge of collecting this information. And so if you go to their website, a quick Google search will do, and you will find the BOI e-filing system. Okay. All right. And so you can get started there. Now, for whatever reason, there's multiple ways you can go about doing this. What you'll want to do is have everybody get a anybody who is over 25% will need to get a FinCEN ID, or whoever is filing this will be required to get some sort of identification. So it seems to me that the easiest way to go about doing this is you, the filer, who may have beneficial ownership, 25%, or the other members of your organization who have 25% will need to go to the website to get a FinCEN ID. So FinCEN ID application. And this should allow you to, for each of your members of your businesses, again, for those people who have more than 25% ownership, to log into login.gov and to fill out the information. You will need all of your personal identification that Social Security, birth date, those kinds of things, but you'll also need a form of ID. You'll want to scan that passport or driver's license. That's what most people use, front and back. You're going to need to put it in a PDF so that you can then upload it to the FinCEN. Once you have that, and then you decide you want to go ahead and report. And again, this is for all LLCs and Incs, all businesses. Okay, so file PDF, BOIR. So you can do this web as a PDF form, or you can do it online. And so you'll just have to go through the process of filling this out step by step. It's not complicated. You'll be able to put in your FinCEN IDs here. Beneficial owner, FinCEN ID, right here. All right. And that's where you can put it in. I need to do this myself. So I don't know exactly all the steps, but from what I can tell, it's not too bad. We'll put a link to a how-to. There's a lot of YouTube videos as well that can be found. So that's the new BOI, what I call the BOI reporting requirements. And again, I don't think there's going to be a lot of compliance, but they are threatening with penalties. And so if it's something you don't want to lose sleep over at night, then I just would recommend doing it. The FinCEN, this organization, the banking organization, they get a lot of information. So it's designed for more transparency, because people like to hide their business activities within other LLCs and try to make it difficult for the government to be able to investigate. So that's the point of this. FinCEN is also responsible for the reporting for financial accounts. to report financial accounts, FinCEN. Let's see if that has that. The report foreign bank and financial accounts, that's another thing that can be done through FinCEN. This is yet another requirement if you are if you hold signatureship over an account with a foreign account with $5,000 or more, then you actually have to file what's called an FBAR, foreign bank and financial account. Which FBAR filer are you? Are you an individual or are you an institution? You're probably an individual that has an account overseas. This is another thing that the government is requiring people do so that they can track people who have offshore accounts and investments. So if you have an account that has $5,000 or more in it and you are a signature over it or a recipient of that, beneficiary of it, then you have to file this as well. So that's an FBAR. The other thing that FinCEN does is the 8300. So that's another one. Now this is for people who are dealing in cash. Form 8300, FinCEN. All right. And so FinCEN, you can do it electronically. That's how I would recommend it. So this is for our clients that receive a lot of money in cash. So if you're a cultivator, a cannabis cultivator, and you're receiving money in cash, or any other reason that you receive cash. Now this is per transaction, so it's $10,000 or more per transaction. If you receive $10,000 or more, so you might receive payments on a single invoice. Once it reaches 10,000, then you have to file what's called an 8300. And I believe you have to do it. Yeah, you have to do it every time you receive a transaction over 10,000. So that's why a lot of people try to keep it under 10,000. But then, of course, that's like evasion. So I wouldn't recommend like doing those kind of deals just to keep you from them from having to file an 8300 or you from having to file an 8300. But essentially, you go to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network and you file this 8300. And I don't know where it went. Let's find it again. Oh, it's an announcement. Oh, BSA e-file. So this is through a different, I guess, part of FinCEN, the BSA e-filing system. And so you can do those 8300s online. Oh, yeah. So look at this. It's in the same spot, the BSA filing right here. You can do it online. Let's take a look at the form. The form 8300 is interesting because you got to get a lot of information. So if somebody comes and hands you $10,000, then you need to be kind of ready with a lot of information. You need to know the information of the individual from whom the cash was received. So if the person, whoever is delivering the $10,000, would need to provide you with information, with their information. Now, I imagine it would be a lot better if, like, say, the owner of the business that is delivering the $10,000 provides you with this information in order to file this. Person on whose behalf this transaction was conducted, that's that same person. So maybe instead of getting two people involved, you just put the same person's information. You could put the person's information at the top, and then in part two, you could put the business information next. And then, of course, business that received that cash, that's all of your information. And they want to know, like, the description of, was it US currency, cashier's check, money orders? So there's a lot of different cash and cash equivalent that would require you to fill this out. You don't need to report checks, but you do need to report cashier's checks, money orders, bank drafts, I guess. I don't know what that means exactly. But 8300 is, I haven't ever seen anybody get nailed for not filing an 8300, but it was something that early on in the cannabis industry, the IRS was asking for those when they would do audit and then nail people for not having the 8300. All right, so that's 3 different things that you need to take into consideration if they apply to you. The BOI reporting, the beneficial ownership information reporting, is something that everybody needs to do. The FBAR and the 8300, not everybody applies for that. So you just got to decide if it applies to you or not. The one thing that is definitely important to look at is 1099s. And there's various types of 1099s. The big one is 1099 NEC for non-employee compensation. So those of you who have independent contractors or people who are hiring for personal services, you're going to file what's called a 1099 NEC. You also need to file one if you're paying rent, if your business is paying rent, paying out royalties, paying out interest. If you've got a loan, like maybe a personal loan or a business loan, and you're responsible with the amortization schedule, and you're receiving interest for a loan, then you technically are supposed to file a 1099 INT or a 1099 INT. So there's some different ones. If you get dividends like distributions through a C corporation that is not a shareholder loan, because that's how we usually get around doing 1099 DIV, but 1099 DIV is another 1099 that a business would need to file. But the 1099 NEC is the one that is the most common. The rent would be filed on what's called the 1099 MISC, which was the original 1099 MISC was the original filing that we would file non-employee compensation, but people were getting confused by it, and they would throw it in something that it wasn't, or they would throw like rent into non-employee compensation, and then the person who received the rent would end up with a tax debt as if they were self-employed. So that is why they separated those two out. So before you file the 1099 NEC, the first thing you need is to get a form W-9. It looks a little like this. And what you need to do is you got to get this out. You got to look through your bookkeeping, see all the people. Now, this doesn't include corporations. S corps are excluded as well. I would, if I were you, just make it a habit of sending these out before you make your original payment if you're unclear, so that you can get this information and you don't have to scramble for it at the end of the year, kind of like what many people are probably going to be doing. So you send out this W-9, you say, hey, like, we need to get your personal information or your business information so that we can issue a W-9 or a 1099. It looks a little like this. Sometimes they don't have LLCs or anything like that, so they're going to give your personal information with their Social Security. Most of the times people will have LLCs, and then they have to designate how they're taxed. Are they an individual sole proprietor, C Corp, S Corp, partnership? LLCs that are C Corps and S Corps, I believe, are exempt, or maybe that's not true anymore. Well, I'm not sure. I'll have to review the rules, but either way, get the W-9 so that we can move forward with the 1099. So when you're ready to file 1099s, I recommend going with Track 1099, which unfortunately was bought. It was something that I've been using for years. It was bought by Avalon, we'll find out, Avalara, which is a sales tax reporting software. And then I think Avalara may have been bought by Intuit, which is our corporate overlord. I don't like supporting them necessarily, but they always have the best software. So you can use this to enter the W-9 information. It will e-file the 1099s. It will mail deliver a 1099 to your contractors, and it will also give you the opportunity to file with your state. So here in the state of Oregon, you got to file this with the state as well. So I recommend Track 1099 for this filing. Anybody who you paid over $600 is required to have it. I get questioned a lot about people who refuse to provide W-9 information. And so what you do in that situation is you just file what you have. The IRS will send you a letter saying that the information that you provided was incomplete. If you can't get the information, you just ignore it. But what you need to be careful of is the next year that you go to issue 1099s, if you've been using the same person, you've been paying the same person, and they refuse to give you information to complete the W-9 and therefore the 1099, then it starts to be on you. I think the IRS would give you a pass that first year, but the next year, if you keep paying somebody who's refusing to comply, then they might have issue with that, and you might end up getting a penalty for that. Again, I've never seen, aside from an employment audit, like an employment department audit with the state of Oregon, I've never seen the IRS come down on anybody for not having 1099s. But it's up to you if you want to take the risk of using somebody who refuses to comply. It's the same with the 8300. The 8300s are required. The person who is paying you over $10,000 has to provide you their information so you to file an 8300. If they don't, and you don't file an 8300, that's fine. But if you continue to receive money from them, then they may say, this is on you. You're going to get penalized for it. So it's up to you if you want to continue to take money from that same customer, which, cash is king. So I wouldn't blame you, but from a professional point of view, it's my obligation to tell you that you ought to file these things. You are required. Some other things to think about as you finish out the year is inventory. Get your inventory numbers, 12/31/2024. Get your inventory numbers, not fair market value, but the cost of merchandise on hand. But we need to know that. Get your odometer readings out of your cars. Find out, write down what your ending odometer reading in case you're claiming mileage or any auto deduction is required to have some sort of log book that you're supposed to have been keeping track all year long. Home office expenses, things like that. Those aren't things that we necessarily ask for and you don't report them necessarily when you're doing your bookkeeping, but get your bookkeeping up to date. Let's make it a smooth tax year. I hope I touched on everything. You guys have a good Thanksgiving week, and I'll see you soon.